Let's see. Hello, Jashmir. Hello, Danica. How are you today?
Good, how are you?
Oh, good. It's working. Can you just type in hi, Lon, in the live chat? I just want to make sure. Yeah, good, Danica. And then can you just say hello again on your microphone?
Hello?
Great. Okay, so this will be the workaround. This was connected, and then I lost it. So forget it. I'm going to turn this around, and I'm going to do what I did in a previous class, which is I'm going to come over here. Okay, so you can see people. And Nicholas, how are you doing? And let's see, and I'll get the um, kind of, we'll do it sort of like that, and or I can do it like that. I think more like that, or like that. Uh, I'll figure that out. Okay, we'll get that. But what I want to do is put those lines down and get the glare. Maybe we'll even do this handheld. Let's get this up last. This was an issue. This was an issue with recording last time. I had to look at glare. Just make sure that. So, as for up here, I can get the screens going forward going, but I may not waste too much time with that. I'm going to come over there for a second and bring this over and bring this over. Okay, so I have my phone in my hand. What kind of coffee? Pencil. Kind of that's good. And we can sort of, I'm going to just make sure I have an espresso. I'm lost. Okay, that we'll see. So right now, you know, we don't, let's see, that will be good. And then I'm going to kind of get rid of, just see how that looks. So something like that. Oh, wow. Look at that glare, huh? It's better if I kind of do it that way, but there's nobody there. So let's see. I'll find a way to do this. Oh, look at that. Okay, I'm probably making all of you kind of dizzy. Uh, but how's the how's the glare at your end? Is it kind of uh, so? Let's see what's happening here. We're gonna do this in a moment. We're gonna get everything. That's better, but only you see nobody. But and that's what would be on YouTube. Well, what the hell? We'll just go over here then, and it'll be a little rough today. But on YouTube, how does it look? Let's see. I'm just getting. Oh, what the hell? Let's see. Maybe if I lift the window, could you lift the blind up there and see? Maybe it will be better if the blind is up behind you. Yeah, thanks. Because I'm gonna. That's what we're seeing a few seconds ago on YouTube. Uh, that's the blind up. Oh, it's the light is terrible. Yeah. Right. Well, could I ask all of you to do something? Could you shift that way? That way, I will be able to have. Thanks, everybody. Just park yourself on the opposite side of the room in the same sort of place, and then we can ensure that everybody online is not looking into a massive glare. Yeah, that's better. Okay, and then I'm going to fill up the. So Ethan, do you want to come? Why don't you come sit beside me over here? Okay, so let's see. I'll show you what the cosmos is seeing right now, and then you can. Okay, so here's what YouTube is seeing, which is much better, and we just want to fill up those seats as much as possible. Nice. So that the online students have the same, there's Nicholas, good. And I can kind of move a little bit away from this so you can see, nice. And then, yeah, we have somebody sitting behind Nicholas. I need to do something here. And so we're just, oh, that's, you know why that? I have to make that live. Yeah, more. That's about 2 seconds ago. Okay. And let's see, do we have, I can kind of do this. Yeah, don't want the glare. So I'll go back to, for a moment, I'll go back to Toria. And we still have about 9 minutes. Oh, that's nice. So that's kind of, if I close the chat and I get rid of this for a moment, we will see. Yeah, nice. Okay. So, Isabel, Ron, would you do me a favor and come over on this side? And that way, maybe just sit around Nicholas, and then we're filling up the frame. And everybody will, or you can even sit beside Ethan. You know, Ron, if you want to take the other end, that's fine. Good. Now we've gotten rid of the glare. And let's just check the audio to make sure. Okay, so I'm going to bring back our Cosmos here, and I'll bring back the live chat here.
I think he wants to just fill up the space.
Yeah, I just want to fill it up. So if you see, but if you sit beside Nicholas or behind him, it's fine. As long as we can see you, because we're going to need to hear you, and the only microphone is my camera, is my laptop. Okay, so now I just want to check with the Cosmos. Danica, can you hear me clearly on my laptop microphone? Yes? Okay, good. And Mitchell, sounding good. You can hear me clearly? Let's see. Great. Okay. Yeah, come on. Yes.
Will there be classes on Good Friday?
No, this
Okay.
is it. This is the last class of the
Okay.
semester. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So let me try something here and see. Should I do it this way? Yeah, maybe exactly. That way, we're really, yeah, that's nice. And then look at what we see on YouTube, which will be the recording. Whoops. Let's get that going again. There we go. Okay, and we've sort of minimized the glare, and we even have a little Canadian flag in the form of the Tim's espresso cup, which I think will work just fine. We want to move that, so it's going to be away from this way, and everything's counter. That's why it gets confusing. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Whoops. No. Come on. Yeah. Okay. Good. So I think that we have a framing that is going to be the best we can possibly do. I'm going to try one more little thing. This is me, the television guy now. That is way back. Could you sit on this? Just sit on that side, Justin, because I'm trying to get over here, like maybe just on that. Hi. Okay. Yeah.
Somewhere.
I'll show you. We're having yeah, I'm just trying to get rid of a glare. Let me just close the chat for a second, close
Trying
this.
to make it look like everyone is here.
Yeah, yeah, and deal with and get rid of the glare on the windows. There we go. There we go.
I went to the.
That's gonna work.
When I first came.
Oh, you didn't see the announcement on?
Oh no, I
did
did.
you?
I just
Okay.
thought about it.
Yeah. All right.
I got there and I remembered once I saw it was empty.
Good. Okay, so we're almost set to begin. It's 11:10, just about ready to blast off. I just want to check on YouTube because that's the recording. It is really critical. And there it is. There it is. And Ethan has a nice big halo over his head, which is good. It means his brain is. Let's bring this Tim's up a little bit. No, back a little bit. Right. There we go. Canadian flag. Yeah. Good. There. Okay, so we're set on YouTube. I'm going to come back to Toria and I'm going to do the rest. And I should keep the YouTube backend in front of me in case we lose the live stream. I can see that immediately if there's a crash. So I don't really need to see that right now. I just need to see that. And that tells me that everything is good. Well, good. Everybody's would you do me a favor, Jocelyn, and just no, sit. It's okay. I've done enough meticulous stuff with the framing. Now I got to teach. So I'll take off the television producer's hat and do this. So welcome everybody to our final class of the semester. And for all of you in the cosmos, I am going to turn my head away for a moment and talk to everybody here. So I want to make sure that the audio is still good when I do that, because I can always adjust a little bit. So please let me know in the live chat if, as I turn like this, you can still hear me clearly enough to be able to follow what I'm saying. The students are going to, yeah, great, Danica. If there's a problem, just let me know in the live. Not so loud? Okay, but it's clear enough, Danica, that when I'm talking to, let's say, Jazeel or Michael or Ron or Nicholas here, that you can hear everything clearly enough. That's more or less how I'm going to be talking, not directly to the camera. Is it okay, Danica, when I turn my head away, you can hear, right? It just may not be. Yeah, okay, good. Okay, so most importantly is by the end of today's class, we have to get all of your names up on the blackboard. That's the on-board board today. This is the last class of the semester. As I'm sure you are aware, next Thursday is the final day of classes at the college. And then it's Good Friday. So the college will be closed next Friday. So we need to wrap things up today. And as long as you get your names up on the board with chalk by the end of the day, or we'll figure out a way, I may even have to write it down in my notebook, but that way I'll be able to make sure that everybody gets that full participation mark and that final 1/4 of your assignment, 7.5%. So if you've been coming to all 4 of these final classes in person, you will walk out of here today having received a perfect mark for your final assignment. Now that's generous, but it was the only way that I could really figure out, as you know, how to ensure that we have time to really work through this whole issue of Canada's future in this historic moment. And so that should be good news for all of you. And for those of you in the cosmos right now, you, in order to receive your full marks today, you have to write your reflection of 175 to 200 words on today's class. And that's how you get your full marks for this. And of course, that's separate from the recorded lectures that have been posted for all of you. So you will have lots of time to ask questions today if there's anything that's confusing to you about how this whole marking scheme is working in the final part of the semester. It all does make sense. The math does add up. And I assure you that you will be receiving exactly the marks that we've discussed, but you may still be a little bit confused about how this is all being done. And I can explain that. Essentially, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to allow you to talk to the person next to you, as in pairs, in a moment. And the two of you will come up with one question that you think is critical that we address in today's class. So we're going to be answering each other's questions And we're also going to be touching on the final part of this story that I've been exploring with you all semester, and that is the great force of evolution. And so really, I hope that you can walk out of here today knowing that you have completed your final assignment, that you understand the marking, and that you have answered some critical questions about anything that you think needs to be asked at this juncture, which is the end of the course. And then finally, that you might have just a little bit of a glimpse of what this new Canada is going to look like. And I'd like to be able to, come on in, Anjana, I'd like to be able to explain to you, after you've done your questions, after I've given you a chance to ask what you want to ask, I would like to be able to explain, if it hasn't come up in your questions, exactly how does this dilemma that Canada faces around its future fit into the larger context of world history? Because that's the story we've ultimately been exploring this semester, and it's the one that you signed up for. You didn't sign up for a Canadian history course. And it's important that that remain at the end the critical takeaway that you are in a world history course. You've been here all semester trying to understand something in a very introductory way about the story of humanity. And when I mentioned humanity at the start of the semester, I mentioned it in terms of not just humankind or mankind, as it was once called, but in terms of its other meanings, the human bond that connects us, compassion or empathy. These are other meanings of humanity that are just as important. And I tried to touch on those too. So it's really important that when you leave here today, you have a sense of, well, then how does this historic moment that Canada is in right now, our country, fit within this larger story? Last week, I tried to touch on that. So let me just briefly explain something about last week's class and how it fits in, because we had a very good moment, several moments at the end. Nicholas Marchioni stood up and had the courage to tell us what he thought about this question of freedom and liberty. And we had watched a video at the beginning, had a little bit of music from the great stage production of Les Miserables, one of the most successful stage productions in the history of stage. It has played many times all over the world, Les Miserables, and I played a little scene from that, from the movie, of the stage version, called Red and the Black. And essentially that was about young men. Should have been women there, but women have been written out of history for so long, and that has been corrected finally. But we saw these young men, British actors, some good actors, singing about a decision that one of them or more had to make of whether they were going to join a protest to ensure that liberty in France after the French Revolution would continue and that France would not return back to a monarchy or a dictatorship. Well, France did. There was the French Revolution in 1789. There was that period in which, many people thought that there would be a democratic government in France. Eventually, the excesses of the reaction to that led to terrible violence, and that paved the way for Napoleon. So then these young men that you saw in that final scene were trying to make sure that this would continue, that Napoleon would not continue to hold on to power, and that the French Revolution would be able to maintain its great ideals. It didn't. Now, we then tried to look at this, and I tried to help you understand that this issue of liberty and freedom and free thinking is a very, very, very important force in the human story. And we now are standing at a point in history in the world where we are seeing some threats to this, some serious threats, not just in the United States, but in other parts of the world too, whether it's Russia, whether it's India, whether it's China, whether it's the Philippines, whether it's Argentina, whether it's Brazil, whether it's Ecuador, El Salvador, you name it. A lot of these countries are returning to authoritarian rulers. Men, strong men, who protect their nationalities. Now, we could say, for example, that for all the international students here from India, and there are many, we'll exclude the Sikhs, talk about the Hindus. They would take great issue with me saying that Narendra Modi is potentially a dictator. However, he's showing signs of this in terms of his repression of the media, in terms of the way he talks about protecting Hindu people, in terms of his views of Islam and the way he's dealt with Muslims. So China is even worse. Vladimir Putin in Russia and his invasion of Ukraine, and now we have this monster in the United States, Donald Trump, who doesn't care about any laws. I would like to tell you one thing about this threat to our freedoms before we begin with the questions today. Are any of you aware of a remarkable thing that just happened yesterday with the stock market in the United States?
I hate manipulating it.
Well, I'm not going to say he manipulated it, but let me just state a fact. How many of you are aware of a tweet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Since you're the closest to the microphone, Ethan, and they can hear you, Ethan, do you want to tell everybody in the cosmos what you know about this 9:30 a.m. tweet that Donald Trump made on Truth Social, his platform? And what did he say?
Pretty sure it was something along the lines of it would be a good time to buy stocks when they're stocks so or something along those lines. I'm not sure the exact wording.
Yeah.
And then the next day, then later that day,
4
or the
hours
next day,
later,
he really undid the tariffs on all but China.
okay.
And then the stock market went back up.
And is it possible that in that time between his tweet to say buy and the time when there was that gyration in the stock market, that some people were listening to Donald Trump and his tweet, wealthy people, and they decided they started trading very fast, knowing that it was all going to go up shortly and they would make a lot of money. Is it possible? Just possible.
Yes.
We don't know for certain. I will say this. You saw what happened when the Capitol building was attacked. I can show you audio of his meeting with the vice president the night before when he talked about how he wanted to make sure that the vote of that election was overturned when he lost the election. And we have audio tape as well from Steve Bannon, one of his great supporters, saying months before that if we say the election was stolen and we repeat that enough times, we will be able to maintain this fiction. In other words, we saw potentially a fraud committed on the democratic electoral system. And now, in real time, we're seeing a president, never has this been done, where he is actually saying, here's how I can ensure that the stock market goes in the direction I would like, so that potentially people could make money from this. Now, this is huge from my estimation. We've seen a little bit of this with Elon Musk already being brought in, who was never elected. But the danger is it's a marriage bringing together business and government in a way that's never been done before. These things are supposed to be separated. It's supposed to be ethical rules on this between religion and the state, between business and the state, so that when people vote, they're voting for a person that they have voted for because they believe in their values. Their vote is clean. I am not saying in any way that what we just saw yesterday was the first time that we've ever seen a president directly tie a decision that he was about to make to profiting financially. However, I will say this. There is a law for insider trading. Do any of you know what insider trading is? It's crime. There have been corporations, CEOs who have gone to jail for many years in the United States for doing exactly that. You get inside information. You know how the stock market is going to perform. You're not supposed to tell anybody about that if you know until the announcement is made. But if you tell people in advance, hours in advance, here's what's going to happen today on the stock market, it gives people advance notice to start trading and get ahead of all the others who never knew. If you had not read Donald Trump's tweet at 9:30 a.m. yesterday, you never would have known. And you could say, he wasn't really saying, well, go and make sure that you sell or buy right now. My final question to you would be only, why would he, at 9:30 in the morning, after a meeting that he just had with his senior advisors, in which they decided that they were going to announce a pause on tariffs in 4 hours, would he then go on his platform and say, it's a good time to buy? Couldn't he have shut his mouth?
Donald Trump, that's too much. It's asking too much for him.
And do you think, Ron, that potentially there was a conflict of interest at that moment when he was making a financial statement, knowing that in 4 hours the stock market was going to change as a result of his decision? Is that potentially a conflict of interest?
I don't think it is. I know it is.
You know it is. Please don't take this as your professor telling you what to think. I'm not doing that. I'm not lecturing at you. I'm trying to state something that happened. And I'm trying to open you up to the fact that this happening had certain consequences. But please do your research in the next few days. Try to understand if this is what we think it is, which is that the President of the United States actually made a decision that he knew would benefit his billionaire friends. And he did that ahead of his interests in ordinary people. Now that's the United States, okay? But it comes back to this idea of freedom, of fairness, of respect for the laws that have been created in democracies is under threat. And we are now in the midst, Canada, of trying to figure out what to do about that with our longtime great friend and partner. So in a moment, when you think about the questions, and I'm going to try and sit, although I'm not very good at sitting when I start to talk, but I'll try to contain myself. Please try to think about the bigger story now, which is what we've been exploring this semester. And if you've watched the recorded lectures, some of them, if you've watched the 20th century as well, and you've thought about this, you might see that there's something very important going on in Canada now that connects to the rest of the human story. But what might that be? I want you to think about that, okay? And then in your question, if you talk about with Jocelyn and Malalay and Justin and Santiago and Nicholas and Ethan and Ron and Isabel, it would be pairs, okay? And Jana, and you do it as pairs. Try to really think about, well, what is it exactly that you're interested in asking at the end of this whole semester? It doesn't have to be about Canada and the world and what's been happening. It can be anything you want about this course and about the knowledge you've gained. But surely after you talk and decide between the two of you, and you decide what is your question, there's going to be something. There has to be something after these 13 weeks that you want answered. And if you don't have a question, then I don't know where you've been this semester, okay? I have no idea. So, any questions for me at this point before we get going with our little activity? And then we'll, wherever the clock is here, I'll look over here. We're going to break into pairs for about 15 minutes or so. Take it up, put your names on the board or wherever, and we're going to call it
I do
a
believe
semester.
there was actually a piece of paper that went around.
Yeah, right.
Oh, somebody's, whoever showed initiative in doing this, thank you, in circulating this piece of paper. That shows somebody's. So is this everybody in our canoe today, our big canoe? We're paddling together? Okay, who hasn't? Piyush, okay. And Jashmir, Danica, and others, did you get what I just said, that I'm going to be asking each of you, not as pairs, but individuals now, to think about the critical question you want to ask, okay? So I'm going to give you 10 or 15 minutes to think about that.
I can all but guarantee that the tariffs will.
Well, they don't have to, but are you ready to get into pairs? And if you have more than one question, great. But okay, so person next to you, so Jazeel, Michael, and say Santiago, Justin. How about the three of you? Okay, and then behind you, three of you, student right behind you. Okay, and Justin and Omar. Yeah, nice to see you, Omar. Let's do the three of you. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
So on three of us.
The three of you. Sure. Okay, that's fine. Okay. That'll work. Let's see. The three, Jazeel and Michael is good pairs. Nicholas and Ethan, two there, two there, two there. How about the three of you? Okay, the three. And John, if you want to join their group, so it'll be four. Okay. You'll be two of you there, three of you there. That's fine. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so we've got the discussion going. I'm just going to break for a little espresso, and for you guys, Danica, Jashmir, well, and Akmal. Let's see who else is in the Cosmos right now. Yeah, Mitchell. Yeah, right. Each of you, you heard me, didn't you? Do I need to repeat what I just said? Would you like me to?
I have a host of an idea.
For the Cosmos, just put, okay, so let me repeat, okay? Yeah, sure. Essentially, I'm asking you to think about two things. First, about Canada and its future, okay? That's what we've been doing in these last 4 important discussion classes. But I also want you to think about the whole story we've been exploring this semester, which is world history. And I'd like you to think about, well, how does Canada's dilemma and its future connect to the bigger story we've been exploring all semester? I'd like you to put this situation in Canada into a larger context, because that's the context that we've been exploring this semester. This has not been a Canadian history course. This has been a world history course. But the fact is, as it happens this semester, Canada entered a historic moment. So I wanted to make sure that was tied into our curriculum. So I want you to think about Canada's future and our discussions and its place within the larger human story. And then I'd like you to think about one question that you'd like to ask right now at the end of this semester. You can, if you want, ask another question. Anything that you think needs to be asked at this point. But you can also ask a question that relates to this dilemma and the context in which Canada finds itself. So I'm giving you some options, but I'm giving you some options to think about this whole semester and about this discussion we have been having about Canada, and really think about, well, what is the big question at the end of this semester that you would really like to answer? Does that make sense? Jashmir, yeah, is it good? Sorry, yeah, Akmal, great. So take your time, okay? You don't have to put it into the live chat right now. I'm giving everybody here a chance to work with another student. So yes, you can. Danica, in the end, it's any question that you really want to ask, and I'm giving you some guidelines, but the important thing is that you think about what really matters to you at the end of this semester, about the content, the story we've been exploring, and then you think about, well, what's the one question I really feel needs to be answered? So the answer to your question is, you can talk about a specific topic, absolutely, as long as it relates to everything we've been exploring, okay? So go ahead, take some time to do that. I'm going to give you 10 minutes or so, and if you like, you can put more questions in the live chat too, but I'm really looking for one critical one, okay? Now, I'll leave that open, and would you like me to mute everybody, or should I leave this microphone on? You let me know.
Oh, good. You found me.
Yep.
Yay.
Yes. Who's that? Is that just a second? Is that? I can kind of hear you, but if you want, just keep going in the live chat for now, okay? And I'm gonna mute, but you can continue in the live chat. Kamal, do you want another explanation of this? You clear? Good. Okay. Okay, we're gonna start taking this up momentarily. Oh, okay, I've got to go back to the screen here because I want to put something up. So hold on. Couple minutes, everybody. Looks like this is working here. So
Exactly, you're just passing this along.
Let's see what we have. If this comes up. So
Do you know this sketch fairly well? Do you know the sketch fairly well?
Yeah, I'm there.
I was wandering class.
It's either I'm here for class. Today I got 3 classes. Then I'm here every day. Just gym and everything like basketball. That's really I spend a lot of time.
let's see.
My parents were trying to use what they remember to guide me, but they didn't know if anything had changed since they went here.
It's good. On one of the apps, there's a map.
Yeah, I'm trying to use that, but it's a bit finicky.
Even this day, sometimes I get lost going to class anyway.
You never get the actual directions.
This is,
Always, I don't blindly wander.
well, we're gonna get it. Maybe it's here. Maybe it's here. Let's go this one here. Okay, well, I'll let this sleep for a second. Hey, one more minute. Well, I
They
can.
were pretty in-depth discussion.
Let's go. Well, could you do me a favor? Put your name up there. Yeah, just put it as 34. Okay, and then we're good. So, we can sort of hear Hans Rosling talking. I just wanted to let you know online that right now I'm going to leave the camera as it is because I don't want to lose this position. But in front of all of us on the blackboard, the old blackboard, the whiteboard, and the pull-down screens, we have all the names of everybody who's on board today, including in the Cosmos. So all in one place, we can see everybody who's in the class today. I'll try and take a picture of that later and post it, but that's great. 35 people are here. And 30 of them, or 31 maybe, are in person. That's great to end. And I know I've kind of had to bribe you to do this a little bit, but I wanted to make a point that we need to be together to really learn most effectively. However, for all of you in asynchronously, I understand why you wouldn't be able to come online synchronously or in person, and not a problem. I look forward to your final assignment that's due next Tuesday. And if you have any questions, anything you'd like to address about that final assignment, please email me. Some students have, and I've been helping them. And I will always be available to make sure I can help you do a great assignment for next Tuesday. It's a critical assignment. Okay, so on the other parts of the big display here right now, we have as well a video running called The Joy of Stats, Hans Rosling. And I would advise you right now, I'm going to put it in the live chat, Joy of Stats, Hans Rosling. You may recognize this from one of my recorded lectures, Hans Rosling. You can put that into YouTube, and I advise you to watch this video either now or even better after the class, just for a few minutes to see some remarkable data that can help us understand something about our future. How many of you right now recognize this video? Just raise a hand. Anyone?
Looks like Matrix.
It looks like Matrix. Well, it's got some kind of special effects. Okay, so that's good. Then I can explain it to you. But first, we're going to take up questions. And I've just looped it for now. It was in one of my recorded lectures. I'm pretty sure this a number of lectures that I posted, but maybe not. So I will explain. It's a great summation of something that's been happening in the human story since the Industrial Revolution. And I'll tell you about that. But I would like to start with these questions, okay? And so we have them online, but we're going to go first in person. And we're going to go around to everybody. We're not going to answer the questions yet. We're just going to let everybody explain the question, and then we'll take it from there. So we'll go clockwise. We'll start up here with Ashley, and I think I see Alban and the third student. Yeah. What? So could you say as clearly as you can? And maybe this is distracting here. So let me try and do this. Or is it distracting his audio?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just reduce it, okay? And then too much going on, but I think. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to fix it because we don't need to. Okay. Oh, perfect in the line. Oh, now I'm going to show you the world 200 years ago. Excellent. We'll get to that. All right. So here we go with the questions. What's your question?
I have got a question. We have already learned about our history. Humans were from animals.
Yes.
To humans.
Evolution.
Yeah.
That's right.
So let's say, let's go like around like 2,000 years back, where we were in the old storage period.
Yes.
So what if like we were not able to have our own creativity and we were still in that particular period?
Okay, so we need to write these questions down, okay? And I'm going to give it to the live chat group to get them really connected to this, and we'll help and explain it. So Alban's question is, what would happen, what would have happened on planet Earth if humans did not evolve from lower, we didn't, say it again, try again.
So we evolved from like old like storage period. So what if the technology or whatever we are currently doing, like the intelligence what we have was not evolved? We were just doing barter system.
If humans had not developed,
Yeah.
what would the world look like today? Is that the question?
Yeah. That's it.
Okay, let's give somebody a tough task in the cosmos. Danica and Mitchell and Aaron and Jashmir and Akmal. Each of you is going to have to write a question right now from this group. And we're going to task first Danica. Danica, could you write Alban's question in the live chat? And that is, what would the world look like if humans had not evolved? Let's see. Let's make sure that if not, then we'll have to do it here. Great. So Danica's on it. What would the world look like if humans had not evolved? Had not evolved. Exactly. Thanks. She corrected it with a little asterisk. Okay, so we're going to have a record of the questions, okay? So that's the group over here. Let's keep going. Okay, Sean, you want to try? And we'll make sure it gets into the notes.
Question. So, as you know, the tariffs are going on right now,
Uh-huh.
affecting Canada heavily because we're
Yep.
not a very independent country. So, these tariffs are probably going to force Canada to develop its own infrastructure and economy individually, right? So, in the long run,
Go on.
this is beneficial to the country.
Will these tariffs force Canada to stand on its own 2 feet? Is that fair? Is that it, Liam? Okay. So this one is not for Danica. This is for Jashmir. Jashmir, you're going to have to put that delicious meal that you're eating now just to the side for a moment. And, you know, I don't know who you're talking to, that great friend, you know, you're having a meal. I hope you're not having a beer this early in the day, or it might be some tea. I'm just making all of this up, Jashmir. I have no idea what you're doing. But Jashmir, you have to write down this question in the live chat right now, which is, will these tariffs force Canada to stand on its own 2 feet? Economically. Okay, good, Justin. Let's see if this, we're putting it out there in the soul, like we're throwing it out there into the planets right now, and we'll see what happens. Nice, Jashmir, will these tariffs force Canada to stand on its own 2 feet? And then Justin added economically. Could you just add that word economically? Yeah. Now that's 40 million of us versus 350 million in the US. But it's a good question. This is the moment we really are at. I mean, you're part of this generation. It's a remarkable time. Canada has faced annexation threats multiple times in its history. It's nothing new. And the remarkable thing is, in the 200 years since we started to form, 150 years since Confederation, the border has never changed. We've been able to fend off the U.S. Think about it. It could have been over these last 200 years or so that the whole North American continent could have split into multiple countries. It didn't. So there was a fight. There has been a fight, but now the fight is intense right now over where we're going to be. So, okay, good. Next, Liam and Jaideep, and the third, yeah, is it the 3 of you there or 4 of you? 3, yeah. So guys, what's the question?
We settled on what's the difference between liberty and freedom.
Ooh. Okay. Mitchell, your question to write is, what is the difference between liberty and freedom? I'd like to hear some sort of splitting of hairs there, but that is a good question. Yeah, well, it's a good. What is the difference between Mitchell has just? I think he just is just swerving on the 407 right now. Oh no, he came back into his lane. He's in his lane. What is the difference between liberty and freedom? Excellent, Mitchell. Mitchell, make sure you look for the officer who's sitting just under the next bridge. And if you're going at 160, I'm making this up, but the other day I got a ticket for 407 just for passing at 140 kilometers an hour. The officer was so ashamed, I think, for stopping me. He had to, apparently, that he took the ticket down to 115, and he said, no points, but I've got to give you this ticket. I know what happened. I know exactly what happened. I'm driving to campus. I'm going in the middle lane, and then 3 or 4 cars are in the middle lane, and they're, going nice, gentle pace. So I decide I'm going to pass the 3 of them. Makes sense. In the moment when I was passing, about halfway, I saw an officer up ahead, and I did a stupid thing. I immediately dropped into a space between 2 cars, not passing them all yet, because I was worried that I was going to be seen accelerating. So I dropped in quickly so I would disappear behind 1 or 2 cars. Sure enough, I look behind me 10 seconds later, and I see the familiar, turning lights, and I went, oh, damn, I got to pull over. He asked me to do a breathalyzer. I've never had this happen on my way to campus. And I realized what I had done you should never do. He must have thought that I had swerved and that I was showing some erratic driving. And that's why he stopped me. I know he didn't stop me because of my speed, because everybody in the passing lane goes at least 140 or 150 on the 407, 160, 170. I do it all the time, and I'm not even the fastest. It was the swerve that did it. So if you see an officer, Mitchell, if you are still driving, which you are not, then keep your pace, but don't make an erratic move. Anyways.
Just to correct, it was an OPP officer that pulled you over?
Oh God. It was a blue cruiser, probably on the 407. It's OPP. I think that's their jurisdiction.
So they actually made it mandatory for breathalyzer every roadside stop.
Oh, really? Okay, thank.
OPP
OPP only. There you go. So then maybe I'm wrong.
Well,
Put your mind
even if
at
you're
ease.
drinking and driving or not, they still.
Yeah, but I assumed that it was the swerve. So my lesson probably should be, what's your name again? It's Tyler. So Tyler said the officer was OPP. It had to have been because it's the 407. I think that. So he had to automatically give me a breathalyzer test. So maybe it wasn't because it looked like it. Maybe it was because I was passing at 140 kilometers. I mean, that's lame. That's a bad. No points. Okay, thank you, Mitchell, for allowing me to talk about something totally irrelevant. And next we have Mike, Jasil, and yeah, the two of you, your question?
In 1 year's time, are we still going to be safe?
Are we still going to be safe? Safe in what way?
The tariff, the economic crisis, the threat of war,
World War III.
Now we're getting, so are you worried that things are escalating and we're in a kind of almost, some would say, a free fall, which can only end in war? Like there's going to be real war and people are going to really die. Are you worried about that this is moving and that's the safety? Are we heading towards a real war here?
Well, Russia and Ukraine issue happened because Ukraine wanted to join the EU.
It's a great question. I have to say, I do think
But
about
it's
that
stopping
quite a
the
bit.
US and Canada from having a
Yeah.
problem,
Okay,
especially if the erratic leader.
but it's also the United States and China now are in a bit of a collision course. I mean, we're talking about essentially an economic slugfest, which is one day Trump says 145%, the next day Xi Jinping says 160% of tariffs. So, I mean, it is an economic war, but you're actually saying, is this leading to real war that will be a very, okay, so excellent question. Aaron, this is your question. Did you hear that? Do you want to try writing it? Or would you like some clarification? You can jump on your microphone. You couldn't hear. Okay. So, Aaron, the question is, this permacrisis world we are in right now, this is a term that's being used a lot now. We're living in a world of permacrisis. Have you heard that word? Permacrisis? Have you noticed? It seems like there's a crisis all the time. So some have said, in this permacrisis state we're living in now, are we heading towards a real world war? I'm glad we're asking that. It shouldn't be depressing if we ask it. What's depressing is if we're afraid to ask it. That's the difference. So in this permacrisis state we are living in now, are we heading towards excellent? Aaron, excellent. Nicely spelled everything. I think you already have a sense from this semester that there's nothing that we can't talk about in this class as long as it's done intelligently and respectfully. And that as dark as it might get, the darkest thing is when there's silence. Right? So the more you can actually put words around something, that's what the history of writing should show us, that we humans invented letters so we could control the world better. The more you put language around things and understand, the more clarity you can get and the less fear you can have. But the more you keep it in your head and say nothing, the more you're going to be afraid. That's my view. So language, speech, writing, do more of it, you get more sanity. Liam?
I think that whole perma crisis thing
Yes.
has only come about because of the extent of globalization.
Yes.
Like,
Yes.
say it's like 1700s and you're some schmuck working in a factory in England.
Yes. If you were unlucky enough to be that
Yeah.
schmuck.
You probably won't even hear about, some civil war in some far off land.
That's true.
And if you did, would you even really care?
That's right. But you would have been certainly worried about where you're going to get your next meal and whether your boss, the owner of that factory, who is beholden to no laws, no unions, no control, is driving you and your children relentlessly to work 12 hours a day or more, you would be worried about your future in terms of your own health.
Yeah. I just figured that sort of thing would be like, if you're
Absolutely. It's a good question.
dude, you're not gonna be really concerned with problems in far off lands. Like, would a guy in France
Yes.
be, would he really care that much about serfdom in the Russian Empire?
Absolutely. But now you only have to open your phone or your laptop and you can see everything happening everywhere, more or less.
Or even with,
Unless you're running those tech companies and you are able to control what's online, which is what Elon Musk does. And all the tech giants who are Donald Trump supporters, is they don't tell you YouTube and Apple and OpenAI and Google and all of these guys who stood with Donald Trump and Jeff Bezos of Amazon, all these guys who own all the online platforms, all these American billionaires. I wonder if any of them were trading yesterday when Donald Trump put his little post out at 9:30.
Or before.
What's that?
Or before.
Or before, but after 9:30, Jeff Bezos going, he doesn't want anybody to know. I'm going to go make my next 10 billion right now. Okay, Liam, that's why you and everyone here have to be so smart today, because you have to deal with the whole planet in your head all at once.
yeah.
What was that great Korean movie that won the Academy Award, Everything Everywhere All at Once?
I think so.
Do you remember that movie?
I heard it good, but I haven't watched it.
Didn't it? Who saw that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once? Think of the title. Don't you sometimes feel like that? You're walking around, it's like everything everywhere all at once. Where the hell am I? Am I back in India? Am I back in Canada? What should I be doing? I mean, I'm in Oshawa, and you don't know sometimes where you belong because everything's coming at you. It's a fire hose of data coming at you all at once, and it can be very overwhelming, very unnerving. Great. Okay. The war question. I'm glad it came up. Let's make sure we get all the questions. We're not going to answer them all in this class. We might answer one or two, and then we're going to conclude. Okay. Let's keep going here. So Isabel and Ron, I think he stepped out. You go ahead, Isabel. Isabel's question. This is for Mitchell, I think. No, not Mitchell. We're going to come back to. We're going to go to Akmal. It's going to be Akmal's question. Yes. I've thought about it. Will saving Canada? It's a lovely question. Will saving Canada save the world? Is that it, Isabel? Yeah. That's a pretty interesting question. Akmal, will saving Canada save the world? would you try and elaborate on that a little bit, Isabel, what you're getting at? Because you are getting at something I think that's very interesting about our future, the new Canada. Oh, Akmal? Akmal, are you out for a walk on that beautiful trail? I know, yeah, that's a tree. That's a maple tree you're just looking at right now. Isn't it beautiful? No, that's a Douglas fir. That's a Douglas fir. That's grown in Canada, but you usually see that in British Columbia. Why are we? You mean you just saw a dead raccoon? Yeah, I know. I saw one the other day. And, oh, jeez. Akmal's picking up the dead raccoon right now on the trail just behind the campus. Do not pick it up by the tail because it may still be alive.
But since he's not responding.
Akmal's gone off his planet. I don't know where. Okay, Danica, could you write Isabel's great question here, which is, will saving Canada save the world? Thanks. So Danica's with us. Okay. So what do you think? What is that? What are you trying to get at there? Okay, we'll try and explain. From a world, how about from a little bit of world historical standpoint? That's what we might say freighted with subtext. There's a lot under that. We have the tip of the iceberg in that question. Help us see what the iceberg is underneath. What is that context?
Well, we're kind of like being attacked by one of like our closest.
Yes, so we're being attacked by one of our closest allies, friends, partners in this continent. So then what's the next part of that sentence?
I wouldn't say like saved is the right kind of.
Well,
Protect.
Yeah.
will protecting Canada protect the world? Protect the world from what?
From the UN.
Well, no, if you're thinking about the context that she was saying about how we're sort of being attacked.
Yes, yes.
If stopping the US at Canada stop them from progressing and targeting other people as well, other nations.
Well, you're actually quite correct, because if you look at a movement that's starting in France, the people of France are looking to Canada right now to see how we're dealing with this threat, because the proclamation of these tariffs by Donald Trump on the rest of the world came after Canada and Mexico. So the rest of the world is starting to look to Canada to see how we're reacting. And so the way we deal with this in France, for example, is being watched closely. So the way we deal with this could be an inspiration to the rest of the world, more and more, Isabel. But the question then is, here's the really important thing. Let's forget about the so-called bully of the United States, because that's so easy. Say bully. Everybody's a bully. And so China's been a bully. They're saying the US is a bully. They've been a terrible bully to the people of Hong Kong, to the Uyghur population. They're minorities. China is no victim here. We're not a victim. But what is the value when we talk about protecting something here? What are we trying to protect? The values in Canada. It's really important. That might be a kind of inspiration for the rest of the world. What was last week's class about? And freedom, free thinking. It may be that our freedoms, human rights, freedom and human rights go hand in hand. It may be that the human rights and the freedoms and the openness and the tolerance that inspired some international students to come to Canada is something that's going to mean more to the rest of the world if we protect these things? It's a question. Will it? But it's a great, connection. Well, we'll thank Ron. I don't know, he's off playing guitar somewhere. Okay, so we gotta finish. We're gonna answer maybe one and that's it, but I want to get all the questions. So Isabel, you were with Ron, right? Yes, you were. That's the good answer. Okay. Ethan, Nicholas, gentlemen. Okay, here comes, and so Danica, can we trust you to keep putting these questions down? Because, great, thanks. Okay, so here comes Ethan and Nicholas.
We said, what are the qualities that would make the perfect world leader?
Wow. What are the qualities that would make a perfect world leader? Well, I'm going to say something to this, just because the word perfection always kind of, as brief as I can. What are the qualities that would make a perfect world leader? I'm going to be a little bit depressing for a moment, but it's not that. It's not meant to be. How many of you know of a singer, a great Canadian singer? He's passed now, Leonard Cohen. Ever heard sort of folk? Leonard Cohen. Leonard Cohen. He once sang, famous line, "Only where there is a crack can the light get in." Only where there is a crack can the light get in. In other words, if something is perfect, it's dead. If something is imperfect, it's alive. And only in the aliveness can it grow. So I think that the question you've asked needs to be just reflected on in terms of the context of perfection. I think that perfection is dangerous. But we can strive to be better. We can strive, as some have said, to bring more love into the world. As the great American poet Ezra Pound or T.S. Eliot said, that all that remains is love. The rest is just dross. In other words, at the end of one's life, all that remains is love. The rest is just, you forget, it's forgotten. So maybe it's something like, what are the qualities that will make a better world leader or a good world leader or something like that? But perfect, I'd be on guard for that, Nicholas, because it's just, perfection is your computer. Perfection is a robot. A human is an imperfect thing. And it's in that imperfection that we get. Yeah, okay. So this is what he was saying. It's a lovely line. It's one of my, only where there's a crack. And some students, when I've said that line, they start to laugh or giggle. I don't mean it that way, because some of you may have made a kind of a naughty association between cracks and light. But that's not the association I was obviously making, okay? But some students do that, okay? We'll move on. But yeah. Okay, good. What are the qualities that would make a perfect world leader? Let's just say that, could you rewrite that question, Danica, and put quotation marks around perfect? That's all. But thanks for thinking about that. Okay, we're going to finish up here, and then we're almost done. Jocelyn and Malalay.
So this question was from the 20th century recorded lecture.
Go for it.
And so the question is, why is it that the Spanish flu killed more people than
The pandemic?
yeah,
Our pandemic?
Than both the world
Both world wars. Yes, yes.
Because in the recorded lecture, you said that over 100 million people died from the Spanish flu.
That's
But-
80 million to 100 million. That's
yeah,
correct.
And then 76
That's right,
777
in the First World War.
Yeah,
And the Second World War.
yeah. both
Yes.
of them, yeah.
No, just the First World War. There was more people died from the Spanish flu than the casualties in the First World War, not the Second World War too. If you combine both the first and the second, that's far ahead of the
Oh,
flu.
yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it was just the First World War. I would have said that if I said second, then I said something really stupid. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't say that. Okay, so why? The question is then,
Why is it that the Spanish flu killed more people than the First World War?
why? There was no vaccine.
I can answer that.
That's part of it, Jocelyn. You know, have you ever thought about our pandemic, which you lived through, and how fast a vaccine was developed through international cooperation? That's a great story. But unfortunately, the loud voices today online often question vaccines and question the freedoms around what we had to deny ourselves during the pandemic, to the point now where we have a big measles outbreak in Ontario. Measles was eradicated, but it's now come back because parents, particularly in Ontario and elsewhere, have stopped vaccinating their children for measles because they feel vaccines are dangerous. Fair enough, okay, if you take that view. The point is that we had a vaccine during the pandemic that helped us. During the Spanish flu outbreak at that point, there was no vaccine. So it had to burn itself out naturally, the way other plagues have done in history. And the second thing, too, is that it spread very fast. And it spread among the men fighting in the war, too. So can you imagine had been in the trenches in the First World War? I mean, the First World War was just a horrible conflict. It was the first mechanized war in human history with all these tanks, planes, artillery, like big machines. The wars before that were with muskets, and there were no planes, there were no tanks.
Spanish flu to this devastating is the governments were deliberately hiding it. The reason the Spanish flu name itself came through is because Spain was the first to announce it. It first started in the US.
That's right, it started in the US. It didn't start in the US. This is known. It actually started, what we believe is it started in the military barracks in the US, and the men fighting at the front in the First World took it over to Europe. Now, the Americans today would deny that, especially, you know, but we have some facts and we have to ask these questions. So we're pretty certain that that's the case.
It was deliberately hid and it was only known late. That's why the casualty rate was astronomically high.
That's very possible, Jocelyn, and I will give you another example for why that is so. The pandemic that we just went through is consistent with pandemics in human history. They have largely come from China. That may seem like a very unfair comment to say. For the Asians here, Chinese, it may seem like I'm targeting them. But let me give you the proof. There's a point in this from what Jazeel said. China hid the outbreak of the coronavirus for many months before it burst onto the rest of the world. So, and I'll explain how that, just as brief as I can. William McNeill, that great world historian that I quoted through the semester, World in the West, he talked about being slaves of the gods. And remember when I showed that book and it was, did I bring in Scotch taped and the World in the West? And his son, John, is also a world historian. I had a picture of the two of them. He had so many notes from writing The World in the West that took him 40 years to do on the impact of infectious disease on the development of empires, that he wrote another book after called Plagues and Peoples. He was the first world historian to link the development of human civilization to how it deals with plagues. And at the back of that book, he has an index. And he chronicles all the plagues going as far back, even pre-Greece time, pre the plague that killed Pericles and changed the Peloponnesian War. And virtually all of them have come from China, including the Great Plague that broke out in Europe, the Great Plague. And the reason is the density of population in China. China has historically been, Jocelyn, Marco Polo testified to this, but many have seen this. Marco Polo would write about it in his great travels. Look at the numbers of peoples in these Chinese cities. Look at these amazing restaurants and they have and flushing toilets. But it's because look at all the people that gather together in these cities. They are so densely populated. And if anybody's been to China, as I have been quite a few times, to Hong Kong, my wife is from Hong Kong, the people are packed. Well, when you get people packed together, the pathogens, if you have a lot of people living together with animals, well, the pathogens are going to be jumping from the animals to the people and from people to people. This is what William McNeill showed. And that's exactly what happened with the coronavirus. As simple as that. A wet market. You go to Hong Kong and you will see there. And they travel. That jumps from an animal to people. They travel. That's what happened with, the plague in Europe in the 1400s. 7 months before the coronavirus became a global problem, the Chinese authorities knew they had an outbreak and they hid it. So it's very possible that the Americans also hid this information. I don't know for certain. But you should do some research and find out what was happening before December of 2000 and when we started it became the World Health Organization. From August or July up until September, the Chinese government was dealing with an outbreak in some of its hospitals. And the doctor who was telling people about that on social media was disappeared. He disappeared in China. That's what happens to you in China now. If you have something critical, you just disappear. So that's a longer answer of saying, that things get hidden. Potentially, vaccines were not developed, and there was a war that spread it, and that's why it was so big. Does it make sense? I mean, that's the best I can say. Okay, Liam?
I just want to say.
Yes.
I would say World War was the first industrial war. And
What's that?
I want to say.
First World War?
Yeah.
First industrial war?
First mass industrial war.
Or mechanized war, we often
I
say.
would say World War II was much more mechanized.
Mechanized. But we do.
Much more motorized and mechanized.
That's a bit splitting hairs because, when we talk about a plane in the tanks that were in Europe, those were mechanized and those were First World War.
I think it was like the sort of start.
It's a set.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. No. Okay. Great. Okay. Finally, this group, and then we're going to conclude. Okay, because I want to let you go early. So we have. Thank you, Danica. We have it in quotations. We have. Your question is, why was the Spanish flu?
Why did it kill
In
more
people than the first and yeah. Why did this, Danica? Why did the Spanish flu pandemic kill more people than the First World War? Yeah. Good question. We can definitely say that flu outbreak would not have happened unless there had been a war, because it started in the military barracks, and then those men went over to fight in a war. So it was connected to the First World War. Okay, let's see. Danica, did you get that? Somebody, and we're going to have one more question, and then we're going to conclude. Yeah, good. Okay.
I got 2 questions.
Okay, well, we'll pick one. Okay, good.
So, first question is will human race in the inventions of human beings will bring chaos to the world, because they have found this genetic engineered the old dire wolf
Yes.
which was extended like way back before. So
You saw the news about the wolf?
Yes.
Yes, it's not the first de-extinction story, but we are doing this more with the genome and getting it.
And
Okay,
Yeah,
not
so what's the
exactly.
question, which is a good, big humanity question is, what's the question? Exactly?
So it was like the human race bringing chaos to the world. Like,
Okay,
what-
good. We'll leave it. We're gonna choose, okay? Will the human race bring chaos to the world? Great. What's the next question?
This question is, what lessons can modern society learn from the rise and fall of ancient
We're
empires?
slowly evolving into Jurassic
Wow,
Park.
they're two, really. Okay, I'm gonna be fair to this, and I'm gonna even make an executive decision here that you might like. Is I'm gonna say we're gonna put these two questions in the live chat because they're two great questions. But I'm not gonna try, nor are we gonna try to answer any of them. I'm gonna let those questions sit there. I'm gonna put that live chat into the class folder on DC Connect. You will have a record of some great questions to think about in the future. These are two excellent questions. We could never answer them. We could try. I just want to get the questions into the live chat because it's terrific. So, Danica, get ready. Here are the final two questions. Will the human race bring chaos to the world to the point that the human race destroys itself? Now, many of us are big planet huggers today. We think we have to be nice to the planet. No. We have to be nice to ourselves. The planet is much bigger than us and will go on and on and on and on. It's withstood so many cataclysms. We're not going to destroy the planet, but we could destroy ourselves. Planet can't be destroyed. Even if we had nuclear weapons going and blowing, the planet will still find a way to come back. But us. So that's why I say, will humans bring such chaos to the, oh, she's got it. Will human race bring chaos to the world to the point that the human race destroys itself? That's a huge question.
But the world is not just for the human race, right? There are the animals. They might be discussing like us about.
If you'd asked a cockroach, if you asked, mice, if you talk to a bird that came from a dinosaur, the birds flying over us, laughing at us, if they could laugh. A crow is a very intelligent bird. Crows will sit on wires and they will actually communicate to each other by the way they call to let the other crows know that that human down there, stay away from that human. But if they don't, you should watch a Nature of Things documentary. It's amazing that the crows and their intelligence. So they could be laughing and let the humans destroy, let them eat each other, let them cannibalize each other, and we'll still be here. We'll still be flying. I don't think they have that kind of intelligence, but they.
What if we bring that intelligence to them and they start having their own democracy?
Okay, it's a good question. The next question, final question is, what can we learn from ancient empires? What can we learn from ancient? What's the question? What can modern society learn? The rise and fall of ancient empires. Yeah, it's a great. What can modern societies learn from the rise and fall of ancient empires? I hope that in this semester, I've given you a little bit to think about in terms of answering that question. I hope that you will make that a little bit of a passion. You'll open up a little bit of a part of yourself in the future to think about these questions. Yeah, Justin.
So we actually never got to Sarah question.
We didn't. I'm
Yeah,
sorry. I thought I was
you
looking at
kinda-
Santiago,
you
and then
kinda
I thought I had it.
bypassed
Then
that.
finally, here comes the Justin and Omari.
You also,
Omari and
you
Santiago.
also skipped them.
Yeah.
Two more questions quickly, and then we're done. Okay? I'm sorry. Go ahead, guys.
So our question, relating a bit more to today,
Yes.
is how do the current events in the U.S., how will they affect the future relationship between the US and Canada in, let's say, 20 years' time?
Good, it's good. Or how about, 20 years is good. It's the near future. I was going to say 50 years. But how about in my lifetime?
In my lifetime.
In my lifetime. Okay, so how will the current US-Canada relations evolve in my lifetime? That's it, Justin. How will the current US-Canada relations evolve in my lifetime? I think that makes it relevant because you're going to want to be thinking about these things. It may even affect your career choice. I mean, some of you may decide you don't want to go to the US anymore, like a lot of Canadians. Some of the international students, some even here locally, may have a dream to make it in the US. This has been the dream of many Canadians. I even have had that dream, but decided it was a kind of fool's game. I wasn't interested. I would rather be here and the rest of the world. So in your lifetime. Okay, finally, yes. Yes. It's a great, so you're talking about the conquest. You're going back to a very important moment. How might the world be different if the Europeans never arrived in the Americas? Christopher Columbus is part of a European thing. Many, many more as you. So how might the world be different if the Europeans never arrived in the Americas? So good question. Big questions, guys, that are hopefully things that you will think about in the future. So thank you, Danica. And for the others, I'm going to leave them in the live chat for reference, what you have done, Mitchell and Jashmir and Danica with the great notes and others. And I want to thank you all for always a great time to teach you. If you need any help with your final assignment that's due next Tuesday, you can come speak with me, shoot me an email. But good luck with the rest of your studies this semester, and pace yourself. Get some sleep. Make sure you pace yourself for all of your exams, your assignments and everything, okay? Thank you, everybody. And thank you online. You know where to reach me, okay? Take care, everybody. And here we have a question. Okay, hold on. I have a question from something about the course outline. I need to deal with the question here, okay? Just a second. Yeah. So I see the question here now, Danica. I have a concerning the course outline. Is it possible to talk about it? In what are you able to come on your microphone, Danica, or could you just be specific about what do you mean talk about for your final assignment? Or
no, sorry, I just because can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Because I just noticed that on some courses I have these course outlines that I can check to be on track, and then I just noticed that this course doesn't have that kind of outline.
No, it does. Absolutely does. For sure.
Oh,
and I even did a video about it in the announcements. I talked about the marking scheme. If you go to, do you know how to access course outlines?
Yeah, is it the one that are PDFs you're talking about?
You go online to wherever. Let me just check with the students here. Were you able to access the course outline ever? Do you know?
No.
Because there is a course outline. It's with all the other course outlines, and it's short history of the world. It's right there. Where do you use My Campus? Not My Campus. DC Connect.
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to where did you get your previous course outlines from, Danica?
It's just from the content of the courses. I'm just wondering because I just want to check the grade.
Oh, I didn't. Okay, so that's because I didn't put it. Okay, so it's on DC Connect in the. hold on a second. I'm going to show you something, okay? The course outline to make sure this is where you should have been able to get it, but I'm going to just hold on a second, okay? I'm
Yeah,
going to
sure.
actually take you there right now. The course outline. It's
Actually, it's not in the content. Usually,
it's not on DC Connect.
It's usually in the content section. There you go, but it's not in the.
Okay, I didn't put it there, but it's because I didn't put it there, but it's available in another place at students. This is taking too long. So that this,
Maybe announcement.
it's, if you want, I can send it to you afterwards, but what's your question? Because I can probably answer it right now. Danica, what's the question? In specifically, is there something about the course outline? I'll answer it and then I can send it to you after, but there is a course outline and it's readily available, but perhaps I should have posted it right on DC Connect. But go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I can just email you about it.
Okay, go ahead and email me and I'll help you that way. Not to worry, but absolutely is a course outline.
Yeah, thank
Good.
you.
Okay, thanks. So I'm going to just mute everything. Take care, Jashmir, Akmal. I'm going to now disconnect, okay? And I'll just mute.